Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Robert Sumichrast. I'm Dean of the Terry College of Business. Welcome to, this is the 99th Terry Third Thursday. And as you can see, it is clearly a more than capacity crowd. In addition to a lot of people who agreed to come, even though there were, it was going to be standing room only, or at least we've got a few chairs back there. And again, there are 3 or 4 seats up here in the front. In addition to that, I'm told that there were another 25 or so people that we just couldn't accommodate in any way at all. So a fantastic turnout for this. Since there are so many people here, I'm going to have to assume that some of you are new to Terry Third Thursday and maybe new to the University of Georgia's Terry College of Business Executive Education Center here in Buckhead. This is our outpost where we do events for the business community, such as Terry Third Thursday. We have an executive MBA program that runs from this facility. We have now a fast-track MBA and various non-credit executive education programs. So I hope you get a chance to take advantage of some of those things. Last month, Randy Jackson was our speaker from Kia Motors, the auto plant that I think all of you are aware of, coming up in West Point, Georgia. If you missed that program, there may be some other programs you missed. We do podcasts of all of these programs, and I'm going to mention that again when we get to the question and answer period. If you want to hear what Randy Jackson had to say about Kia, go to our website and take a listen to our podcast. Terry Third Thursday would not be possible without sponsors, and so I want to recognize the generous support that we've received from some of our sponsors. Our premier corporate sponsor for Terry Third Thursday is Bank of North Georgia. Can you, I think we've got a few people, identify yourselves here. Thank you. Our other corporate sponsor is Deloitte, and I don't believe we had any representatives today. Oh, back there we do. We also have 2 media sponsors, Public Broadcasting Atlanta and the Atlanta Business Chronicle. Can I have you identify yourselves? So thank you so much to sponsors. I want to mention a little bit about upcoming programs. Our 100th Terry Third Thursday will be March 19th. Doug Curling, the former Chief Operating Officer and President of ChoicePoint, will be our guest. And I'm told that his speech will be titled, "Yes, Senator, and Other Phrases You Don't Learn in Business School." Now, from the laughter, I guess that means many of you are familiar with the breaches in security that ChoicePoint suffered, and maybe there's some connection there between his speech title. Jeff Genthner, who is Senior VP and General Manager of Fox Sports South, will be our guest on April 16th. You'll certainly know that this is a regional cable network that started broadcasting games for the Braves, as well as the Atlanta Hawks and the Thrashers, college basketball and college baseball. So he'll be our guest in April. Now, Terry Third Thursday is not the only way that we reach out to the business community. We at the Terry College and the university understand, like everyone in this room does, that the economic situation is very serious right now. And so as a way to serve the Atlanta business community and especially our alumni, we've gotten our executive in residence, Pat Pittard, to come and give a talk entitled, "How to Get a Job When Others Aren't." Now, if you know Pat, then you know that he's the former CEO of the major search firm Heidrick & Struggles. He is an executive in residence for the Terry College, and so I'm very pleased that he's agreed to do this on Friday, February 27th at 7:30 in the morning. On a more fun note, we are going to have a really fun event coming up in April. On the 25th, we do our annual gala where we will be recognizing outstanding alumni, or distinguished alumni as we call them, as well as donors, as well as having a lot of fun with dinner, silent auction, live auction, etc. So on your tables, I believe we've got cards with save the date information. I hope I see all of you at that event. It's going to be a lot of fun. This year at the gala, we're going to be recognizing 3 individuals. John McMullen will be a distinguished alumnus. Cecil Stelling will be a distinguished alumnus, and our young distinguished alumnus this year is Davis Knox. So I hope you'll be with us. Let me now introduce Cecil Cooke. Cecil is relatively new to our alumni board. He joined the board this past fall. He's a graduate of the Risk Management and Insurance Program, the #2 RMI program in the country, as a matter of fact. Cecil is also Managing Director of Aon Risk Services here in Atlanta, and he is, of course, representing the Terry Third Thursday Task Force. He's co-chair of that, and in that role, he'll be introducing our speaker. Cecil?
Thank you, Robert. It is indeed my pleasure this morning to introduce our speaker, Jerry Wilson. Jerry is a Senior Vice President of Coca-Cola Company, and his responsibilities up till March the 1st has been as the President of Coke's Global McDonald's Division. So he's been responsible for, get this, the alliance, strategy, operations, and performance of more than 31,000 restaurants in 118 countries, serving 58 million customers a day. He will be promoted effective March the 1st to the Chief Customer Officer for all of their customers worldwide, which is a pretty phenomenal job. But he's more than just Coke. He's an author, and he's authored a book that's called Managing Brand You. Jerry describes it as his roadmap for anyone interested in leading a more successful and fulfilling life. I don't know anybody that wouldn't want to lead a more successful and fulfilling life. Locally, Jerry serves as a member of the board of the Ronald McDonald House Charities. He is an advisor to Emory University's medical school, and he will become the executive sponsor of the Coca-Cola Company Women's Forum in 2009. Most importantly, Jerry's a bulldog. He graduated in 1978 with a degree in economics, and obviously we're incredibly proud of him. He likes to say that we're all brands in our own right, and the question is, how are you managing your brand? So, Jerry?
Well, good morning, and thank you, Cecil. It's great to be here. What a crowd. There are seats here, so if you would like to sit down, there's plenty here. But I tell you, it's an interesting story to be with you today. I want to first say hello to all my friends in the room. There are so many here. Linda Morris and Jeff Wansley, I know you're both here from the Atlanta Ronald McDonald House Charity Board. It's great to see you. Dan Dubay and Larry Nichols, 2 of my personal advisors, are here. I see Billy Paulin here, dear friend who's worked with me for many years, and a lot of my Coke friends that are in the house. So a paid political announcement for those opportunities to sell more Coca-Cola. But Dean, it's an honor to be here, and I think you can thank Penny Morrison Ross for really finding me, because I was kind of a lost dog in the woods. And we can talk about that some other time, but you've done a great job of kind of reconnecting me with my roots. Joe Larsh is here. Joe is a dear friend. We've known each other a long time, and now works with the Department of Labor and is Michael Thurman's right-hand man. So I know it's a busy place right now in Georgia. But a funny story, some of you have heard me tell this. When I went to University of Georgia, if you were there in the late 70s, you would have known me as the ponytail guy on Springdale with a bicycle and a broken-down Vega. So if you remember that image, that was me. And so I was working at a place called The Station, which was a very popular place. Lee Epting was my manager, and I was his dishwasher. And the big break came for me when the cook quit, and I was able to move up in the organization. And so I tell a lot of friends that I had friends that graduated magna cum laude and summa cum laude, and I graduated thank the laude. So I'm glad. So I'm just glad to be here. But I can tell you that where Terry is now, my wife and my combined GPA would be a challenge to be accepted. It's a great university, a great college within the school, and I'm proud to say that my daughter is a senior at University of Georgia today in the great School of Family and Consumer Sciences. So the tradition goes on. But let me go ahead and dive into this discussion today. You know, I've just moved into a new role where I have the chance to work with a broad group of customers worldwide. And today, around the world, Coca-Cola will serve over 1.5 billion consumers our products. Now, that sounds large, but in a world of 6+ billion and growing, we have a lot of growth, a lot of room for more opportunities. And the way that we will capture these will be working with some of our large alliances around the world. And these are just a handful of some of those customers. You know, we go to market through our customers. And you can see in the upper left McDonald's, because McDonald's is our most cherished alliance worldwide. We've got a 54-year partnership, and this was founded on a handshake. So one thing I've learned in the last decade working with McDonald's is that the basis for any relationship is trust. Forget the contract, forget the terms, they're binding, but the real binding nature of any alliance is trust-based. And so we go to market by working with our customers to try and identify methods that we can understand their strategy and then bring the best of Coca-Cola to life in a retail environment. Now, that happens in a lot of different ways. You know, whether it's Simon and Paula going through the American Idol countdown, or whether it's a vitamin water truck in Manhattan. We want to make sure that our brand messages match the brand positioning, whether it's a Coca-Cola Oasis or how we were represented in Beijing. Now, let's face it, we're in a world of brands, aren't we? No one says, would you please hurry and bring me a carbonated, sparkling beverage that is brown, that is in a cup, that has ice around it, with a straw. They say, can I have a Coke? Nobody says, can I please have a piece of paper that I can use for cosmetic needs? They say, where's the Kleenex? And so it really begins to make you think, what if you thought of yourself as a brand? Now, University of Georgia is a great brand, very well positioned. It stands out head and shoulders amongst many others. And that equity transfers to all of you as alumni of this great organization. How well are you carrying forward that brand promise that University of Georgia stands for? And it led me to the thought about 4 years ago of what if we could take these disciplines of brand building and put them to work in an authentic way for ourselves. And let me first unsell the idea. This is not about dress for success. It's not about self-promotion campaign. And it's not about getting yourself on the box of Wheaties. It's about understanding what makes great brands successful long-term. And you'll see in a minute that there's a science that brands use to position themselves in the marketplace. And so the thought was, how could we as people do that? So after 4 years of work with my co-author, Ira Blumenthal, we published this book that has a roadmap that people can actually use and follow for themselves. Now, in this day of digital connections, you are already positioned in the eyes of others. Now, some of those images are good, and some of those images are a little bit reckless. And you think about Facebook, you think about YouTube, and you think about a cell phone. And in a moment's notice, your brand can be repositioned by one photograph, by one YouTube post, or by one Facebook photograph. And this is something that lives in this Ethernet for a long time. And so people don't really think about it. It's kind of a fun place to go. But employers now are beginning to go onto Facebook to begin to see if the resume matches the person. So let's start with a quick definition of what a brand is. A brand is nothing more than a promise plus the experience, which leads to a relationship long term. Now let's take my favorite brand for the last decade and going forward, McDonald's. McDonald's makes a very simple brand promise. Fast food served in a friendly environment that's accurate, hot, and a good value. Now, when they do this on a regular basis, that relationship is enhanced. It grows. This is a photograph of one of their new re-imaged restaurants. How many of us remember the old they're called mansard roofs, the red roof girders? That was the image for many, many years. And in the last 5+ years, McDonald's has done a great job of re-imaging their look. So this is what you would see as the brand, but their brand is much more broad than that. This is the person, the character, the image that McDonald's refers to as the Chief Happiness Officer. Literally, Ronald McDonald is their Chief Happiness Officer. He's at every meeting, and he wants to remind people of the simple promise that McDonald's stands for: happiness. Now, we're pretty proud to be part of that promise, 58 million times a day. And our goal, Mike Slocum and Mike Mapes and the rest of the team, is to make that 60 million times a day. Right? Yes, thank you, Mike. And we're proud of our heritage, and our brand, Coca-Cola, is stronger for the affiliate equity of the McDonald's brand. And we believe the McDonald's brand is stronger by the affiliation with the leading Coca-Cola brand worldwide. You take that a notch down, and you've got, how are you treated by the person at drive-thru? That's another part of the brand. Do you get that warm, friendly feeling? When you do, the relationship grows. This is a picture of an owner-operator, another pillar of the brand. Local businesses. Over 3,400 owner-operators in America represent the McDonald's brand. And these are owners of the business, pillars of their community. And they are very much engaged in knowing their customers locally. Now, you go overseas and the brand has a little different look. This is a delivery business that is now approaching 20% of the business in Turkey. And in 18 minutes, you can phone a McDonald's and you'll have hot food at your place. In 18 minutes. And it's delivered on these scooters through incredible traffic issues. And then you bring it home with another part of the brand, the Ronald McDonald House Charities. Anyone that's ever been a part of what this great charity does for families in need of assistance, your perception of McDonald's changes. You realize that McDonald's is not just an extra value meal. It's a home away from home for families in search of that tender, loving care during the most traumatic time in their life. So when you think about a brand like McDonald's, you may think about it as a brand that's merely a quick-serve restaurant. But it's actually a brand that delivers a lot of promises every day. Now, great brands know the power of focus and sacrifice. And what this means is very simple. They're willing to give up certain consumers to own their target audience. MTV is a great example. MTV could care less that grandma, mom, and dad hate them. They know it. They know about you. They know about you. They don't want you. They just want to make sure there's a flat screen in every teenager's home and that they can have the headphones and off they go. By owning these young adults and teenagers, they have become the badge of youth, the badge of that independence, the badge of freedom. Now, the interesting thing that's happening is YouTube is beginning to encroach on this brand because MTV is all about the content they own, which they share. And YouTube is about you're now in charge of the content, and we're going to give you a medium to post your own movies. So YouTube is coming into this space, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. Tiger Woods is a fabulous example of a brand that focuses every day. When you think of Tiger Woods, you see a brand that stands for winning, focus, never satisfied, always trying to improve. He wins a tournament and goes to the driving range and says, let's reinvent my swing. Whereas every one of us would say, let's go to the 19th hole and celebrate the victory. He's going back to the driving range. And he'll, reinvent. But he's a brand that stands for absolute commitment to winning, which is why Nike early on decided to do a promotional arrangement with him because they wanted a transferable equity. Now, we as people, unfortunately, don't understand this. And this is where some of the brand lessons can help us. We want to be all things to all people every day, all around the cul-de-sac and everywhere. Right? I mean, we all know this. But that means that we're spending a lot of time with people that are bringing us down, that aren't really interested in our success, and we are sacrificing our own thought about how much we could bring forward as a person. Now, great brands also promise and deliver. They recognize that it's a very simple thing to make this promise, but they deliver. And we've had a fabulous example recently of, and how many people here fly a few times a year? How many people pay attention during the safety announcements? One. Thank you. I hope you get the exit aisle every time. How many people think of a flight attendant as basically a cocktail waitress? There we go. Not anymore. This is a great example of a veteran who did his job with a veteran crew who did their job. That's all they did. They didn't do anything fancy. They did exactly what they had to do. They saved 155 lives in the Hudson River. And in 2 minutes became a hero across the world. What promise do you make in your role, whether you're a college graduate waiting to walk across that stage, or whether you've been in business for 50 years? It doesn't matter. What is the promise that you make? Do you deliver? That's where great brands start. Now, the other thing is that great brands know to communicate with consistency, and they recognize that everything communicates. Here's another really well-positioned brand, Apple. Apple's done a great job of going actually away from their computer base into the entertainment space, back into computers. But there's a question about the legacy of the brand because of the health concerns of their iconic leader. It's just there. It may not be talked about, but it's there. And so this is the mysterious Stephen Jobs in a mysterious world of health concerns leading a company, and you can be assured that there is a little bit of question there. Everything communicates. Let's talk about this. Here we have a living example of another 24-year-old hero. Largest number of gold medals, Sports Eye cover boy, Cornflakes cover boy, and a 24-year-old. Okay? And so what happens here is now this brand is undergoing a little bit of repositioning because of the issue that he's facing. And the most fascinating thing to me is that only Kellogg backed away. This shows the changing times that we're in and the different mores and norms and values that are associated with this. Now, what's interesting is that what he's doing here is allegedly illegal if the photograph is accurate, which it seems to be. But he's been basically kind of forgiven, understand it, what have you. Imagine if that was steroids. A whole different program. And so this idea that everything communicates is real. Now, the other thing is that great brands position with purpose. And if you think about a great brand that is consistently on message, here we have it, Mickey and Minnie. How can you look at this picture and not feel good? I'm going to Disney World, the Super Bowl winner, the manliest sport of all, right? What are you doing? I'm going to Disney World. And why is that? Because this brand is all about happiness, family fun, kind of that G-rated entertainment. Great values. Now, as we opened the meeting today, we talked about this world that's changing so much. And I think that this is a great quote, which has been around for a while. But to attract followers, a leader has to be many things to many people. And the trick is to pull that off while remaining true to yourself. So this idea of managing brand you is really about being true to yourself. But with everything that's happening in society today, one thing that is absolutely clear is that we're in an era where retroactive values are in. Honesty, transparency, authenticity, thriftiness, ecology, all of the words may have changed to sustainability. But the things that we heard about in the 60s and 70s are coming back. And you're seeing it now in even some of the legislative involvement in some of the bailout stimulus package. You know, who would have thought that there would be a pay cap involved? But the government is tired of the citizens seeing the recklessness of this situation. And so those of you especially that are coming out of the university and getting ready to strike it out on your own, this is actually a great time. Let me rephrase that. It's a great time to be entering the workforce. Now that is contrary to what you'll see on Bloomberg and everywhere else. But why is it a great time? Yes, we've lost 2.5 million jobs last year. Yes, Georgia's probably going to go, Joe, to what, 8, 9, 10% unemployment. But we still have hundreds of millions of jobs. The vast majority of jobs are still here. And the vast majority of companies need people to come in who can project leadership, who can drive success, and who can drive top line and bottom line success. So don't be afraid of what the headlines say. Be true to yourself. Find that intersection of passion and skills and go at this in a very optimistic, positive-minded approach. You know, we are what we believe. And if we believe we're not going to get a job, guess what? We won't get a job. We'll talk ourselves right out of it. If we believe we're going to find a role that can make a difference, that can be something we enjoy and really like, then we can also be part of that. So attitude's very important. Now, within the book, I talk about 7 steps that people can follow to build their own brand positioning. And let me take a minute and go through this, and then we'll have plenty of time for some questions and answers. Step 1 that any great brand company would follow is called a brand audit. And the brand audit is merely the strengths and weaknesses. Where does the brand stand today? If it were brand Sprite, it would be very easy. We would look at sales data. We would look at consumer loyalty. We would look at market share, the competition. We would look at some of the trajectories, the channels it's winning with, the consumer dynamics. It's very easy because it's a liquid that's in a can or a bottle, and there's no emotional trappings with brand Sprite. We as people, though, have all of these emotional issues that we bring into it. So people might say, you know, wow, you really are a very optimistic person. You look at life very good. I'm surprised that you never did this. And your immediate reaction is, why are they coming down on me? Whereas brand Sprite would just say, fix my positioning, I want to sell more. So the audit is really you're a function of everything that's happened to you life to date. So the audit will allow you to go back from childhood and go through every life stage up to your current moment, and really log those areas that have impacted your life, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And you'll realize that through those steps, you're going to find patterns that make you who you are. And these patterns may not jump out at you. I know when I did this for myself, I didn't really put 2 and 2 together, that being a Bobcat Cub Scout and then going up to Webelos and then becoming a Tenderfoot Boy Scout and going up to Eagle Scout meant anything. But early on at age 13, 14, 15 as a patrol leader, as a junior assistant scoutmaster, as all of this stuff at an early age, I had an opportunity to experience leadership very early on. But it didn't really correlate in my, current age, which will remain anonymous. But you can do the math on a 78 degree from Georgia pretty quickly. But I mean, it didn't correlate. I also found that there were certain areas in my life that were important to me. And I found that when I was doing work that I was proud of, like when Joe and I worked together at Volkswagen of America many years ago, I was very proud of that. I was proud that I had made it in an organization as globally powerful as Volkswagen. And when I was proud of that work, my work excelled. I excelled in that. And so pride is an important part of what I do. And so as you go through this audit, it gives you a chance to step back, really get to know you. Get to know who you are and what makes you tick. Now the second step, and the reason I show Harley as an example, Harley Davidson in the 60s was under incredible pressure from the Japanese motorcycle companies. Suzuki, Yamaha, Honda had come in, and the strategic plan called for Harley to become more Japanese. And what they began to do was to scale back to get more of the Japanese to say. So they kind of went from the vroom to the ring. You know, and what happened is that their market, I mean, that was clearly the data would take you there. The consumer facts would take you there. The competitive facts would take you there. But the gut said, there's something wrong with this. It's not, you know, Harley's an American brand. It's Hell's Angels. It's, you know, Peter Fonda. It's, right? So they would have learned in the audit a group named HOG, Harley Owners Group, which is now their ticker symbol, HOG, would have told them right then, don't you dare leave your roots. In fact, get back, make it more bad than it's ever been. Get back to the forks and make it what its brand is all about. Let Honda have the scooter business. We want the authentic biker business. Now, because of that positioning, they are largely succeeding. They're in a little bit of a downspin now, but the economy is helping that a lot. But 12% of current new Harley purchasing occasions are women. Women, because they're tired of riding on the back of a Harley. They want their own Harley, and they want that experience. And you see a lot of these tandem trips going on now on the interstate. And Harley's adjusted their bike slightly to fit women a little bit better, but the sound is the same. And one of the most successful things the Harley dealers have implemented is what they call open garages, where they invite women in to touch a Harley, to feel a Harley, to see that they can actually manage this big machine. And it's a great, safe way to get to know that brand. Now, the second step gets you into brand image. And brand image is really the total perception that others have of you. This is a very important reality, because if the image that you are portraying isn't the identity that you want to stand for, then you've got a disconnect. So let's imagine this brand, Volvo, stands for what? Safety. Very well-positioned brand. If Volvo ever had a 0 to 60 number and it was low, it doesn't really matter. If the braking distance wasn't quite as great as a Porsche Carrera, it's not a big deal. If they ever had issues on crash test, this would be a major issue for their brand. So it's no surprise they have over 40 patents in safety. Their company was founded by an engineer, and that engineer drives the fact that we want our drivers to be safe at all times. Now, the image is important because it's connected with your identity, which is the step 3. The first 2 steps are a bit of a look in the rearview mirror. The next 5 are about going forward. The brand you identity is what you want to stand for. So if we think about these 2 brands, LL Bean and Subaru, you might say, what in the heck does a boot company have in common with a car company? That's the functional reality of those 2 brands. But the emotional connection people have with LL Bean and Subaru is actually very similar. They're both lifestyle brands. They're both as comfortable in Manhattan as they are in the Poconos. And they both stand for high quality. And so what happens is LL Bean works with Subaru to develop an LL Bean limited edition Subaru Outback. Upgraded leather, higher quality interior, but still all-wheel drive, still take it to the mountains, and still take it to the Broadway show. You, as people, have transferable equities too. Now, I'm going to keep talking about different audiences, but those people that have graduated from the university that are out looking for jobs right now have a resume, right? Got a resume. CV, as it's called in the proper terms. But you have a resume. And on that resume, what are you talking about? Everything you've done. And you put it in terms that you feel describes yourself, right? But if you think about the target audience, do they care that you were the social chair of the fraternity? Do they care that you were in charge of a couple $100 at the keg night? Do they? I mean, I hate to be so brutally honest, but you've got to think about the target audience and the identity that you're projecting versus the image. And so you go into this with a lot of equity you think is going to transfer. You know, I was an art student, I did really well in art, and now you're talking to someone that has no appreciation whatsoever for art. Now, you don't know that. That's who you actually are. But you've got to think about how you position yourself, the image you bring into this, with the target audience you're trying to influence. So I know when we're interviewing people at the Coca-Cola company, we're interested in what their background brings. But we're more interested about what they're going to bring as far as solutions in the role they're stepping into. And so the identity you project, you want to make sure is consistent with who you are, but also that you bring that forward, you know, with the audience in mind. Now, as we move forward into step 4, you begin to think about your own positioning statement. Writing it, it's almost like a mission statement, but this is really where you core in on the target audiences. And we start with yourself, because so many times, especially women who are multitasking, who are living 4 different job descriptions a day, who are taking care of 3 generations, who are, you know, in charge of so many things. At the end of the day, women especially seem to wind up with the short end of the U stick, you know, as far as thinking about themselves. So you start in this positioning work with yourself. So to me, what do I want to stand for? And you've got to be true to yourself in this work. Then you would identify 2 other target audiences that you really want to focus on, whether that's to your significant other, to your partner, to your employer, and you begin to think about, okay, how do I want to be seen and how do I want to position, brand me in the eyes of those people while always remaining true to yourself? And this is what's different about today's job search than 15 years ago. You could monster.com and you could spread it out and you're going to get a few callbacks. Today, Joe, you're not going to get those callbacks, are you? The market's changed dramatically. You've got to target those employers that you really want to go after and make that connection. The shotgun approach today will be maddening, because you'll wind up getting your resumes on all these desks, and it's just like, I mean, I'm getting 50 a day, and maybe you'll get a call back. But if you go after it and think about what you can add, there are jobs companies need to fill that will never be posted on a job posting board. But there's work they need to get done. And so if you can think about the gift that you can bring, because everyone in this room is loaded with gifts. And if you could think about where that could play. Let's say you went through your brand audit and you realized throughout your life you've always been volunteering for things. That's a theme. Linda, that would be your brand audit. You volunteer, you give back to the community, you give back to society, you want to be in those spaces, and you're working in an accounting job in a cubicle because you're an accountant, because you have a CPA. So you have the qualifications, but it's not matched up against your passion point. But imagine if you took that and said, I'm going to find the 5 most interesting volunteer organizations, nonprofit organizations that I really have my heart and soul for. They need accountants too. They need people that understand analysis and bookkeeping and current legislation and laws. Put your place in the space you want to occupy And that's what positioning is all about. Positioning is putting yourself in the space you want to occupy. Vitamin Water is a brand that doesn't target everyone. It targets a specific group of consumers. And by targeting those consumers, we actually get broader users because people know what we stand for. And Oprah is a wonderful example of this brand. Her brand audit is quite troubling if you ever study her life story. She came through a lot of trauma as a child coming up. Now she's a billion-dollar brand influencing the world at large and was probably, this is an opinion, probably central to getting Obama to second, third, and fourth gear. Because she decided to step in at a time in the election where it was really an even race. And even when she decided to do that, I thought, this is crazy for her to do that. Why would a TV show declare? I mean, keep your options open. Don't, stay in the middle ground. But she took a stand and moved forward. Now she's got a school in South Africa for girls. And she's really positioned as the voice and conscience of women. If you were to boil her positioning down to a few words, that's who she's focused on. Men, she'll take us. But you've got to be a Renaissance man to be in that crowd. And she knows that. She wants men that care about societal issues, not, men that don't. And so she knows she's sacrificing that group, and she's very successful doing that. Next, we would look at your goals. So now you begin to get into the standard setting goals, specific, measurable goals, SMART goals. And this is long-term and short-term, so you would ask yourself, where do I want to be in 10 years? I don't care whether you're 25 or 90. We're all living longer. We should all have 100 plus as the goal. That's a lot of life to manage. It's not like the old days where you'd retire at 60 or 63 and go and, go the rocking chair. We're retiring. We're going into different worlds. We're reinventing. Ray Kroc started McDonald's in his late 50s. Started it. Colonel Sanders at 64 started KFC. Don't believe that you're at an age or a stage where you can't think about where you're going to be in 10 years. And this is a great example of General Electric because years ago they set a very simple goal. We're going to be either number 1 or number 2 in every business we do business in today. And if we can't get to 1 or 2, we will divest. We will get out of those businesses. This led to billions of dollars of buy-sell. When Welch took over, we remember that. He got into NBC, got into a lot of different businesses, and it led to a very clear sight line on their goals. How clear are your goals? How clear is your vision of where you want to be in 10 years? It doesn't have to be that crystal clear, but you should know directionally the kind of life you want to be leading, the kind of people you want to be with, the kind of work that you'd like to be doing, perhaps where you'd like to live. And if you think a decade out, you'll begin to think about your journey to get there, which leads next to your strategies. Now, strategies are nothing more than how you're going to achieve the goals that will help you achieve the positioning that you've already set out. So it's a very methodical process. The power of strategic thinking is to make sure you always look at the options that are available to you. So this is a good time, once you've set your goals, you'll say, what are the various options? One of the options may very well be go back to school. If you've got a 10-year goal, a couple years back in school is a wise investment, especially if it's targeted in a specific area against your passion. Education is one of the quickest ways out there for all of us to advance against gaps. It's targeted, you can manage it, you can determine exactly what you want to study, and you can get at it. And there are schools that will help you do that. Chris Matthews made a great statement on his show. He's a wonderful weekly commentator, and he was talking about graduates. And he said, if you're a college graduate and you're looking to go to law school, I've got 10 pieces of advice for you. One of those advice points was, if you didn't get into the law school you wanted to go to the best law school you could get into. Period. So in other words, don't allow this mental model of I have to go to a specific to hold you back from going and doing what you need to do. My education career life began in Clarkston at DeKalb Community College. At 15, I was a bag boy at Winn-Dixie, and I did that through 22, Memorial Drive, and I went to junior college. Junior college is one of the most underappreciated aspects of education in America today. There's a bit of a snobbery out there that if you're not going to Harvard, you're not worthy. Well, that's baloney. The fact is, if you're not learning, you're losing. And so the great thing about University of Georgia as a total system is that DeKalb Community College was part of the University of Georgia system. So every course I took while it was at a, underappreciated junior college prepared me to transfer and succeed at University of Georgia. So think about education as one of those strategic options. Build your skills. If you get a chance in your current career to take a lateral or demotion that can grow your skills, take it. Take it and learn and grow. I've done that 3 times in my career. Taken literal demotions to go in and learn a new role, to build my cadre of skills, and then use that long term. And today I'm delighted I did that. Gillette is a great strategy because their strategy was simple. We're going to give away razors, and we're going to make a lot of money on razor blades. We're going to have a proprietary razor system, and it worked for years, and the company was sold at quite a premium. And then the last step, step 7, is your implementation plan, where you begin to go out there, put it on a calendar, take those steps to do this work, and then monitor your success. Now, this step is pretty interesting because now all of those concerns you've had earlier are real. You've gone through the audit. It's all nice on paper, isn't it? You've got it going, Billy. It's written down. You've got it all laid out. The map is there. Now I've actually got to go out and do something. So let's say that during that audit, you realize that as a junior in high school, you were giving a speech to your high school class about geography. And you were talking about the world. And you blew that presentation. The high school teacher made fun of you. The class laughed at you. You left there very embarrassed. One of the most powerful emotional states we can have, embarrassment. Today, you're now 45 years old, and what do you hate to do? Speak in public. And your job may require you to do a little bit of speaking, either in customer meetings or in roundtable discussions. And so you realize you've got to work on this, and now it's time to begin taking steps in public speaking. Imagine during that audit you also learned that as a child you had very fond memories of going out into the parks with your grandparents. That you remember this as a child, that it was very fun. You were out in the parks, you were together in nature, you did some hiking together. But as an adult, you've quit doing that. But it's still in there, isn't it? You remember it. Like I remember when I was 5 years old, being with my grandfather in Arkansas, having a cup of coffee with him. Now the coffee was this much coffee and that much milk. But I still felt like a big boy. And I have a fond memory of those moments. Now you say, how does this come together, Jerry? Where are you going with this? Well, in your current job as that accountant who really loves to be a volunteer, your stress level is up, isn't it? Business isn't that great. You're getting pressure from the manager. You feel like your blood pressure's going up. First time ever you've had blood pressure issues. And you say, well, where does this bring me? You begin to say, I'm going to go back and get some fresh air. I'm going to start taking hikes again. I'm going to begin to get out into nature and enjoy what I enjoyed as a young boy or girl. So you start hiking. You realize that through REI you need to get some new shoes. So you're back out there. You're getting the new hiking shoes. You're ready. And you realize there's on there a little hiking club. So you're following your passion and you're stumbling into all good things. Like the harder you work, the luckier you get. There's a hiking club that meets on Saturdays and they're going to go to Kennesaw. They're going to go to Red Top Mountain. It's not a big deal. You say, you know what, I'm going to go do this. So you hike up there. You meet 5 or 6 different people and they say, you know, I've never seen anyone pack a day pack as good as you pack it. Where did you learn that? Well, as a Girl Scout, you know, we learned this, something that we brought up. Wow, would you mind teaching us all how to do that? I'd be happy to. Well, at our next hike, we're going to meet at the head of the trail, and I'd like you just to give us a quick orientation. 15 people show up, you are now speaking publicly. And you're doing it in an area that you love, that means something to you. And you're taking that baby step toward that goal. And I know this sounds like it's maybe a little bit Pollyanna or what have you, but it works. Baby steps build confidence. Confidence breeds risk. Risk brings great reward. So why I like FedEx so much is that FedEx, you know, when you've got a tagline that says absolutely, positively, overnight, that's a pretty strong promise. And they know that if they miss 1% of deliveries, they've wrecked thousands of birthday parties, thousands of holiday events, thousands of reunions. And they try to emotionalize this with their people. So that is basically the concept of managing brand you. I've set up a website that you're all welcome to go if you want to get more information, just jerryswilson.com. And you can feel free to, you know, get some more information on that. And of course, I have to say thank you to this great opportunity. If you had told me in my Thank the Lotta degree that I'd be speaking to this prestigious group today, I would have said that's a slim chance many years ago. But I think it's a great example of anybody can be whoever you want to be. If you believe it, if you go for it, and if you stay true to yourself in this journey, and I mean honestly true to yourself. If we had more time, I would take you through some brands that I love because they've done it their way. Richard Branson is a brand that I think is fabulous. And here's a guy that is as comfortable with Mick Jagger as he is with Sir Somebody in London. And so, I mean, it's just, you can do this. Now, in today's economy, in today's reality, it's important to have a plan. We all need a plan because great people are losing their jobs. This is no longer a performance-based issue. It's an economic reality. So if you or I find ourselves in that position, you know, the best thing we can do is deal with it emotionally as quickly as possible because it's a real hit. My job has been eliminated at the Coca-Cola company. I remember walking into my manager's office years ago, and he said, "You're doing a great job, and we're eliminating your position." I'm like, whoa, that was a quick meeting. "And I want you to go and move here." And I said, "Well, I don't want to move there." "Well, then I guess you're going to have to." So I went and retrenched. And I took a demotion, but I had a chance to get back into marketing. And I jumped at it because I had an MBA in marketing. Nobody at Coke kind of appreciated that until I punched the marketing card. So be adaptable, be strong, be you, and thank you very much. Thank you, Dean.
Time for a couple questions?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. We have time for just a couple of questions. So as always, since this is, again, being recorded for a podcast, raise your hand, get a microphone. Please be patient while we bring one to you. And if somebody jumps ahead and just can't wait for that microphone, then, Jerry, if you could repeat the question.
Be happy to, Dean.
Any questions?
I was listening to your entire presentation, and I'm wondering, bringing it back to not the real world, not that you didn't speak about the real world, but Uh, I'm CFO of a small company, and I'm sure there are plenty of people, almost everyone in this room, that on a daily basis or a weekly basis has their to-do list. But in the times that we're working in, when I would love to dedicate the time and realize how important it is to go through that process, but just to survive today requires, at least out of me, to put a lot of that on the back burner. How do you balance that in light of where we are today and just making sure the lights are on, as opposed to making sure that I'm, almost saying I'm going to be a little less selfish about me and more about the 90 people that work for me and making sure that they're getting a paycheck.
Well, what is your name?
Jay Weiner.
Jay, good to meet you, Jay. I think that we're all faced with knowledge and data overload. I've probably gotten 75 emails since I started this presentation. And so there is a little bit of this managing the madness for all of us that's going on. And so I think that in today's world, prioritizing that which really matters and allowing some of the other stuff not to happen is what we're all having to do. We're having to sort out. And because if we do everything that everybody throws at us, we're probably doing C work in every category. And what you want to be is an A player in those places that matter. There is an exercise in this that is a time balance grid sheet, because your point's exactly right on. And in the course of an average week, if you take, 14 waking hours a day, and you take that out over 7 days, and you begin to map out how you're spending that time, it's amazing how much time we're spending in work that is unimportant and uninspiring. And so that would be where I would start. And it could be, an example is that on the weekends, let's say that you meet up with a group of people that every Saturday you meet up for a couple hours to go have a cup of coffee. And, you've been doing this for a couple of years, and it's kind of gotten to be a real rut. It's the same old stuff every morning. Somehow, how do you get out of that, free that up to use it? And a few hours a week can really advance on this. It doesn't, it's on your terms. The book was written to allow you to do this completely on your terms, knowing full well that it's a crazy life. So I think that you owe it to your people, though, to find, Brand J. As you do this, you'll become a better CFO. It's interesting how that works, because you'll begin to sort out what's important to you, and I think your people will actually see that manifested in your own daily actions with them. Thanks. It's a great question, though. Thank you. Here's one in the back.
Hi, you had a slide on Michael Phelps. Now, if you were managing his brand, what would you suggest for him to overcome his slip-up? I've had slip-up in my careers. I'm sure probably most of us have. How can we overcome those faults or slip-ups?
What is your name?
Matt Clark.
Matt Clark. Matt, it's great to meet you. That is a great question. Who here in this room has a spotless life? Nobody. Nobody does. And so the question is, how do we deal with those issues? If I were managing Brand Phelps, and I've thought about this, I've actually written about him on my website, I would come clean. I think the world would forgive this situation. He didn't go out and really, quote, hurt anyone. He didn't break anything that would take away from his gold medals. And anybody that can smoke that and still win gold medals, it's almost amazing, actually. So what I would do is I would apologize to my fans. I would go out and I would say, I'm really sorry. I'm a kid. I did what a lot of kids do. I'm a young adult, and I know I carry with me a different image. The issue with Phelps, though, is that Kellogg is a kid's brand, and it's a mom's brand. And so he's going to find that those particular brands that are in that zone, he's probably going to have trouble affiliating with those. What I would do is actually take him more toward the more forgiving brands. He appeared on Saturday Night Live, and that was by and large not a positive image. I don't think the email traffic on that was that he didn't do that great on Saturday Night Live. So he's kind of gotten thrown in a lot of places. Let's face it, this is a simple guy. He has attention deficit disorder. He was basically raised by his mom. It's a great story, and he's a good swimmer. You know, I mean that's it. And he was fabulous in the pool in Beijing. I saw him win the first gold medal live. I was there. The place went crazy. He's a great brand, and I don't think you should ever try to be the superhuman brand. The brands that are really struggling are the Bonds and the A-Rod and what have you. And it's interesting to see that there's a bit of a movement to reinstate Hank Aaron as the home run hero. And so from a Phelps perspective, I would go right back to authenticity, genuineness, sorry I did this, crazy, party thing, I did it, and I guess the question is whether he would ever say he wouldn't do it again. I don't know. If he's going to do it again, he shouldn't say he's not going to do it again. So, because they'll be found out. But it's a very strong brand. I think it's America's already pretty well voted, and they've pretty much moved past it, by and large.
Time for one more question.
You mentioned the word trust early on, and for those of us that work in the financial world, I mean, obviously we've all been impacted by, I guess, a lack of trust from the marketplace in various ways. For the financial firms in particular. I mean, if you were managing a financial firm right now, any advice or any thoughts, and obviously you can pick that brand on just in general, how you might reposition, how you might take advantage of the opportunities right now. I'm sorry, I'm Jay O'Meara.
Jay, nice to meet you, Jay. Very simply put, I don't trust the financial markets, but I trust my financial advisor explicitly. Period. We're friends. We share common values. And so if I were in the financial industry, I would make it really about you and your values and your goals and your clients and resonate with them. Because the bigness of this problem is not going to be solved by any individual firm. It's a huge issue. And when the reference point for NBC News is Madoff and $50 billion and Katzenberg and Spielberg, I mean, a lot of really smart people have gotten hung up in this. I would hug my clients more than I ever have. I would spend time with them. I would let them know that you care, let them know you're in it for the long run. You've got a plan. Their money is safe with you. You're going to take care of it. Because that's what people are looking for. They're looking in the whites of your eyes now to see, is this somebody I can trust? And if you've got an internet relationship with your clients, I would go see them face to face and make some personal connections like never before. Review with them the facts. This is what's happened. This is where we think we're going. It's going to be rough for the next 2 years. We're going to do this, this, and this. Any windfall that comes in, we're going to put it here so you'll be safe. I've got a plan. You've got to talk them off the roof. You don't want them to jump. Not now. This is the time to really focus on existing customers. I would not be chasing new clients right now. I'd be focusing on those existing people, bringing them in, making sure they know that you're with them through the bad times. Because when this turns around, not if, they'll remember who stuck with them during the bad times. Just like Mike knows this, Mike Mapes, Mike Slocum, everybody here, Gordon, we know that when our customers go into a trouble mode, traffic's declining, sales are down, the Coca-Cola company will step in with our customers to try and be there during the tough times because we want them to be with us for all times. Does that make sense? Great.
Well, that was the last question. I'm told Robert Copeland had one additional burning question. Is that right? Oh, Larry. Okay.
Under advice of counsel, I'll take the Fifth Amendment. No, I'm just kidding. Coca-Cola and peanuts do go well together. This is not a peanut problem. This is a peanut processing problem. And my dear friend and brother-in-law is a PhD agriculture guy with the University of Georgia. And he's a pomologist and works out of the ABAC facility down in Tifton. So He's a big pillar of the agricultural community in Georgia, focused on blueberries, actually. But I think the issue with this is there's a real fear right now in the cupboards of America. And people don't know right now what they can and can't eat. And peanuts have become a part of virtually every food, a lot like corn. It's kind of ingrained in a lot of foods. I think the first thing that I would do if I were, in that area is I would go back to the dirt and talk about what we're growing in Georgia and what these peanuts mean to the economy of the state and what these peanuts have stood for decades. And yes, we've got an issue in a production facility, but we as a peanut industry are important to this. And if you'll remember, years and years ago, when cotton was the big product, the boll weevils were really taking care of that crop. Peanuts were the savior. Peanuts became something that boll weevils did not like. And so we began to grow peanuts. It's a big export for our state. And I think the peanut is not the enemy. I would somehow personalize this is not a peanut problem. This is a processing issue, and it's something that there needs to be a kind of a gateway of how we get out of this. And people need to be educated. Apparently the big brands are safe. Apparently there's no issue with Jeff. But I bet you 7 out of 10 Americans would not believe that.
Jerry, thank you very
Thank you,
much
Dean.
for your wonderful remarks. On behalf of the Terry College and our alumni board, I want to present you with this glass sculpture by a local artist, Paul Benzunas.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Dean. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And as you exit the parking deck, just mention that you were at Terry Third Thursday. That's your ticket out of here. So I hope I see you next month.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. That was fantastic.
I hope so.